Today, we're visiting a place where time seems to slow down. The narrow streets whisper stories of the past, and every house looks like it jumped straight out of an old European fairy tale. Vibrant, colorful storefronts reflect off the calm canal waters, looking like a painter carefully brushed them onto a canvas. You see wooden beams, vintage shutters, and flower boxes on every windowsill. The whole town looks like it has been lovingly preserved for centuries. Every step here brings a little discovery. Every turn reveals a new view. Every single detail reminds you how beautiful history can be. This is the kind of place where you just want to slow down, wander aimlessly, take it all in, listen to the quiet, and simply live in the moment. The air smells like fresh pastries, morning coffee, and French wine. All right, guys, today we are exploring Colmar. I traveled here from Basel, and the trip was incredibly pleasant. I was treated to views of the picturesque Alsace hills, rolling vineyards, and cozy French villages passing by the window. By the way, Basel has an international airport, making it a great starting point for your trip, since you can easily catch a bus, train, or shuttle straight to Colmar. Before we start exploring Colmar, let's talk about where we actually are. Colmar is located in the Alsace region of northeastern France, right on the German border and not far from Switzerland. Alsace is a really unique spot. Over the centuries, control of the region constantly shifted back and forth between France and Germany. Because of that history, it has this amazing blend of French and German culture. Alsace is famous for its wine roads, picturesque villages, medieval castles, and half-timbered architecture. It's home to the famous Alsace wine route, which is one of the most beautiful scenic drives in France. The region is well known for white wines like Riesling, Gewürztraminer, and Pinot Gris, as well as its Christmas markets, which are considered some of the best in Europe. The architecture of Alsace is instantly recognizable. It feels like the entire region was custom-made for slow walks and beautiful photos. And right in the heart of this region sits Colmar. It was mentioned under the name Columbarium, which translates from Latin as dovecote or pigeon house. This meant it had autonomy, its own laws, and a special standing within the Holy Roman Empire. Then, in 1354, the city joined the Decapole, an alliance of 10 Alsatian cities formed to protect their independence. However, the Middle Ages brought tragedy alongside prosperity. In the 14th century, during the outbreak of the Black Death, anti-Semitic pogroms took place in the city. Centuries later, in 1863, during the renovation of a local house, the famous Colmar treasure was discovered. These were jewels hidden by a Jewish family during the pogroms, hoping to save them from being looted. Today, this hoard is considered one of the most valuable medieval treasures in Europe. Colmar held on to its independent streak for a long time. It didn't even adopt the ideas of the Reformation until 1575, much later than its neighboring cities. But perhaps the most dramatic part of Colmar's history is how often it changed flags. During the 30 Years' War, the city was captured by the Swedes. Later, it was taken under the protection of the French king, Louis XIII. It officially became French under Louis XIV in 1679. Then, following the Franco-Prussian War, in 1871, Colmar became part of the German Empire for nearly half a century. That was when modern infrastructure was built here, including the impressive train station. During World War II, the city was annexed once again. It also became the site of the last major battle on French soil, the famous Colmar Pocket in February 1945. After that, Colmar finally returned to France for good. Today, the city's streets and houses serve as a constant reminder of its rich history. If you look closely at Old Town Colmar, it becomes clear that its architecture isn't just for looks. It's a reflection of the practicality and lifestyle of that era. Half-timbered houses weren't built just to be decorative. It was a well-thought-out building technique. The foundation consisted of a heavy timber frame made from massive wooden beams. These beams created a sturdy skeleton for the building, and the spaces between them were filled with a mixture of clay, straw, and lime. Sometimes brick or stone was used, but the traditional method relied on this clay filler. Once dry, the walls were whitewashed, while the wooden beams were left exposed. That's exactly how the iconic contrast between dark wood and light walls came to be. Interestingly, the upper floors often extended past the ground level. This wasn't just to get extra square footage. In the Middle Ages, property taxes were calculated based on the footprint of the ground floor. So people would expand their homes outward as they built up. On top of that, these overhanging floors protected the building's facade and main entrance from the rain. This specific design also made it much easier to hoist up heavy goods using pulleys and hooks. Attached to the attic beams, they used oak for the structural framing because it's incredibly strong and durable. In fact, many of the beams you see today are completely original and are several hundred years old. They were put together without a single nail, using a complex system of interlocking joints and wooden pegs. That exact craftsmanship is the reason these houses are still standing today. Now we're approaching one of Colmar's most famous landmarks, the House of Heads. This historic building was constructed in 1609 for Anton Berger, a wealthy merchant and wine trader. The architecture is attributed to master builder Albert Schmidt, who skillfully blended German Renaissance elements with local Alsatian traditions. The building's facade is decorated with over 100 sculpted masks and heads of people, animals, and mythical creatures. This unusual design is exactly what gave the house its famous name. Perched on the gable of the facade is a statue of a cooper, created in 1902 by Auguste Bartholdi, which symbolizes the building's historical ties to the wine trade. Over the years, the property has housed a wine exchange and various historic culinary institutions. Today, the House of Heads has preserved its landmark status while being fully adapted for the modern world. Inside, you'll find a luxurious 5-star hotel with rooms designed in the spirit of historic Alsace, alongside a high-end Michelin-starred restaurant. The building also features a traditional brasserie and a wine bar. Let's keep exploring the architecture, because the most fascinating part is actually what's hidden beneath these picturesque facades. Underneath many of the homes in Colmar lie massive wine cellars. Alsace is wine country, and here, wine wasn't just a drink, it was the backbone of the economy. These cellars were built deep underground, featuring vaulted ceilings made of stone or brick. This specific design maintained a constant temperature and humidity level, creating the ideal conditions for storing wine. Some of these cellars were even interconnected, forming a literal underground network. They housed massive oak barrels, some holding thousands of liters, where wine would age for years. For merchants, this was their wealth. For families, it was their legacy. During times of war, these cellars served as bomb shelters. In fact, during the 20th century, it was the region's valuable wine heritage that largely saved the town from destruction, as wine collections were considered strategically important assets. It creates this amazing contrast. Up above, you have fairy tale, almost toy-like houses with carved wooden beams and colorful shutters, while right beneath them lie massive stone vaults. Cool air, complete silence, and the aroma of aged wine. If you happen to notice massive nests on the rooftops, don't be surprised. Storks hold a very special place here in Colmar. The stork is the symbol of the entire Alsace region, representing happiness, good luck, and family prosperity. It's believed that if a stork chooses your roof, good fortune is coming your way. At one point, there were tons of them here, nesting on rooftops, towers, and church bell towers. However, their population dropped sharply during the 20th century. Due to climate change, draining wetlands, and urbanization, the birds began to disappear. That's when the region stepped in to quite literally save its icon. In the 1970s, a special stork conservation program was launched right here in Colmar. A reintroduction center was established to breed the birds in safe conditions before gradually releasing them back into the wild. Locals even helped them adapt by building special nesting platforms to make it easier for them to settle down near people. Colmar is a perfect habitat for storks. The town has plenty of canals, especially in the Little Venice district, meaning there is plenty of water and food. The damp environment, proximity to rivers, and open spaces make it a highly comfortable home for the birds. That's why the storks feel so comfortable here. Every spring, they return from their winter migration to reclaim their nests. Their wingspan can reach up to 6.5 feet. They say that seeing a stork in Colmar is a sign of good luck. And if you're lucky enough to spot a pair of them together in a nest, it means the town has truly welcomed you as its guest. Unfortunately, I haven't been lucky enough to see a live stork just yet. I kept scanning the rooftops, hoping to catch a glimpse of a nest or a silhouette of a bird. But this time around, I only saw their likeness. Hopefully, the next time I visit, I'll finally get to see a real stork soaring over the canals. For the locals, the stork is so much more than just a bird. You can spot its image everywhere, on souvenirs, signs, postcards, and even on the facades of houses. It has become a core part of Alsatian identity, right alongside the half-timbered houses and the region's deep wine traditions. The locals embrace this tradition so deeply that they even decorate their homes with artificial storks. You'll see figurines sitting on roofs, near chimneys, and tucked onto wooden beams. They don't feel like tacky decorations. They look like a natural continuation of the town's story. In Colmar, there are certain buildings of special historical significance, the ones that don't just decorate the town, but literally shape its character. Some buildings here have become symbols of entire eras. Their facades aren't just architecture. They're a reflection of the wealth, trade, and artisan traditions that built this city over centuries. Walking through the old town, it's impossible not to notice how the surrounding houses vary in detail. In one spot, you'll see richly decorated bay windows. In another, painted murals on a facade. And in others, massive wooden beams that have survived for hundreds of years. The atmosphere is especially incredible out here in the squares, like the old Custom House Square, which was once the bustling heart of the city's trade. Right ahead of us is the Coiffes, the old custom house. For centuries, this was the exact spot where goods entering Colmar were inspected and taxed. Wandering from one narrow street to the next, we gradually approach one of the town's most famous landmarks, the Pfister House. This house was built in 1537 for a wealthy hatter named Ludwig Scherer. It immediately stood out from the surrounding buildings thanks to its iconic two-story corner bay window, wooden gallery, and beautiful murals depicting biblical scenes and portraits of emperors. It's one of the earliest examples of Renaissance architecture in Colmar, seamlessly blending medieval traditions with the new artistic influences of that era. The name Pfister House actually came later, named after the family who owned the property during the 19th century. Today, the ground floor houses a wine shop, but you can still deeply feel the atmosphere of the past. When you step inside the shop, the first thing that catches your eye is the massive wooden beams running across the ceiling. What's truly amazing is that they are completely original, dating all the way back to when the house was built in the 16th century. This part of the building's load-bearing structure was crafted using traditional, half-timbered techniques. Now, let's peek inside another shop, but this time it's a Christmas shop. It's no accident that Colmar is called the capital of Christmas. Holiday traditions here run deep into the town's history. Even back in the Middle Ages, the people of Alsace celebrated Christmas with incredible heart and a special attention to detail. They set up markets, exchanged gifts, and decorated their homes. Over the years, these traditions only grew stronger, and locals still view Christmas as a deeply family-oriented and spiritual holiday that's meant to be celebrated with warmth and beauty. From late November onward, the entire town transforms into a real-life winter wonderland. The next stop on our walk is the Bartholdi Museum. This museum is dedicated to the life and work of Frederick August Bartholdi, the famous sculptor behind the Statue of Liberty in New York City. The museum is located right inside the house where he was born in 1834. Each room inside walks you through a different chapter of his life, his childhood, his education, his very first commissions, and ultimately, his rise to international fame. Colmar is the kind of town where it's incredibly pleasant to just wander around, even without any specific plan. Every single turn can lead to a little discovery, a cozy nook, a hidden courtyard, or a narrow passageway between the buildings. You step inside and suddenly stumble upon something interesting, an ancient door, a miniature bridge crossing a canal, or a gorgeous facade that you'd never catch from the main street. Looks like this local resident decided to say hello. There's no way I can just walk past him. While you're exploring Colmar, it's impossible to pass up the souvenir shops. There are so many unique things inside. Beyond the standard magnets and postcards, you can find ceramic stork figurines, miniature half-timbered houses, painted plates, and even handmade Christmas ornaments. If you want to bring home a special treat, you should definitely check out the local sweets, marzipan, gingerbread, or traditional Alsatian cookies. If you keep an eye on the ground while walking through Colmar's historic center, you'll notice small metal triangles neatly embedded right into the sidewalk. They aren't just for decoration. This is the Bartholdi route, a trail designed to trace the life of Auguste Bartholdi, the famous sculptor who created the Statue of Liberty. In fact, we passed right by his museum earlier today, where you can check out his work and learn more about his life. Right now, we're standing on the Rue de Turenne Bridge, which crosses right over the Old Town canals. The bridge is lined with love locks, little tokens left behind by couples to mark their romance. From up here, you get a stunning view of the historic half-timbered houses and the water perfectly reflecting their facades. We've made our way into the Fishmongers District, a historic area of Colmar where fishermen and traders used to live. It features narrow cobblestone streets, historic homes with vibrant storefronts, and a maze of small canals that give the entire neighborhood a magical medieval fairy tale atmosphere. Colmar is famous for its Michelin-starred restaurants. There are quite a few of them here, each offering its own unique atmosphere and fine dining experience. For instance, this restaurant right in the heart of Little Venice immediately catches your eye. Its facade is painted in the trompe-l'oeil style. This is an artistic technique that creates the optical illusion of three-dimensional depth and intricate architectural details. Thanks to a subtle play of light and shadow, the building looks almost 3D, and the decorative accents look as if they were actually carved right out of stone. From there, we smoothly transition right into the heart of the Little Venice district. This is the most picturesque and recognizable corner of Colmar. The area gets its name from the canals of the Loch River, which flow directly between the houses, with the water reflecting the vibrant, multicolored facades and all the little footbridges. This spot truly does feel like a miniature Venice, just with a distinct Alsatian twist. Historically, this area was home to fishermen, boatmen, and merchants. The canals weren't just for decoration, they were a central part of daily life. Goods, produce, and wine were all transported by water. Today, the boats are strictly for sightseeing, but the atmosphere itself still holds the charm of an old trading hub. It makes perfect sense that a marketplace would pop up right next to the canals. This is the Colmar Covered Market, which was built back in the 19th century. In the past, fresh fish, meat, vegetables, and cheeses were brought here directly from nearby farms. Thanks to the canals, delivering these goods was both quick and convenient. Today, it's one of the most atmospheric spots in the Old Town, where you can get a true taste of Alsace. The moment you step inside, you're hit with an incredible vibe and the rich aromas of fresh bread, spices, cheeses, and pastries. They sell local delicacies here like Munster cheese, foie gras, seasonal produce, sweets, and, of course, local wine. The market building itself is beautiful, featuring high ceilings and large windows that look right out onto the canal waters. It's more than just a place to shop. It's a living piece of the city's history, where old trading traditions are still kept alive today. In the summer, Little Venice is completely blanketed in flowers. Geraniums spill over the balconies, reflecting beautifully in the water, making the entire neighborhood look like it was custom-made for a postcard. In the autumn, the facades take on an even warmer glow against the backdrop of golden leaves. While in the winter, Little Venice transforms into a Christmas wonderland filled with lights and decorations. If you walk just a bit further along the canal, you'll see boats filled with tourists. These quick boat rides offer a completely unique perspective of the houses. From down on the water, Little Venice feels even more intimate and cozy. Interestingly, the area isn't nearly as large as it might look in photos. It's compact, yet every single corner is incredibly photogenic. If you take just a few steps away from the main street, you'll find yourself in a quiet alleyway where the only sound is the gentle trickling of the water. Today, the Little Venice district looks like a fairy tale movie set, but it wasn't always this way. In the 19th century, following the Industrial Revolution, life in the city began to change. Shipping goods along the canals gradually lost its importance as transportation moved to land, and the old waterfront quarters lost their economic value. Fishermen and artisans abandoned the neighborhood. The houses aged, and no money was put toward maintaining them. By the early 20th century, many buildings had fallen into disrepair. The wooden frames were rotting from the moisture, and the facades were turning dark and crumbling. Some of the homes were even deemed unsafe, During that era, many European cities simply tore down their historic districts to put up more modern buildings. There was actually a debate in Colmar about clearing out part of the old buildings along the canals too. A neighborhood was viewed as outdated and impractical for modern life. However, after World War II, the public attitude toward historical heritage shifted. France began aggressively preserving its historic city centers. Massive restoration efforts kicked off in Colmar. Crews reinforced the half-timbered framing, cleaned and restored the original wooden beams, brought back the historical colors of the facades, and updated the canals and embankments. Essentially, Little Venice was saved by a preservation program, targeting the historic center during the second half of the 20th century. And here's a fun fact. The house colors that look so bright and Instagrammable today are the direct result of those restorations. They were chosen based on historical shades, but were made slightly more vibrant to really emphasize the unique character of the neighborhood. Now, we've made our way back into the very heart of the Old Town, the Tanner's District. This isn't just a beautiful backdrop, it's a real portal to the past. Back in the Middle Ages, this place was buzzing with life. Artisans formed powerful guilds, influential associations of craftsmen sharing the same trade. Just look at these houses. Everything here was thought out down to the smallest detail. Tanners, carpenters, basket weavers, and even blacksmiths took over entire streets. This was a true hub for craftsmanship, where every house doubled as a workshop and a storefront. A unique feature of this area is the tall white facades with open attics. Right up there, just under the roofline, is where tanners used to hang hides to dry out in the fresh air. Here's a fun fact. It's widely believed that the narrow streets, half-timbered houses, and overall vibe of Colmar inspired Disney animators when they designed Belle's Village in the animated movie, Beauty and the Beast. While the town hasn't been officially confirmed as the direct model, many elements, like the colorful houses, cobblestone streets, and small squares, closely resemble what we see here in Colmar. For many travelers, the city truly feels like a fairy tale come to life. Old-timers in Colmar still pass down a legend about the voice of the city itself. They say that during the turbulent 15th century, a local church bell possessed a mystical power. It could sense danger before people could. Legend has it that one night, as an enemy army closed in on the city walls, the bell began to toll all on its own, sounding the alarm and waking the sleeping town. You won't find this story in dry, official history books, but it has become the living soul of Colmar's local folklore. Toward the end of the 20th century, Colmar began aggressively boosting its tourism appeal, particularly after most of the Old Town was designated as a protected historic zone and fully restored. In 1966, a significant portion of the historic center was officially declared a protected site. And in 1972, this area was expanded even further. This provided a massive push toward rebuilding and restoring the buildings, bridges, squares, and canals of the city's old quarter, exactly as we see it today. Following the restoration of these historic neighborhoods and the creation of pedestrian-only zones, Colmar became much more inviting to travelers. In 1978, visitors became especially drawn to one of the region's largest museums, the Unterlinden Museum. It quickly grew into the most popular regional museum in France, largely thanks to the famous Eisenheim altarpiece, which is stunning in its historical significance and detail. The museum became a true cultural gem for the city and drove even more interest in Colmar from tourists worldwide. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to go inside this time around, but I'm definitely adding it to my bucket list for a future visit. I've heard the collection is just as impressive as the building's exterior and the atmosphere of the old town itself. Well, that brings our walk through Colmar to an end, a town where every single corner feels like a postcard from a fairy tale. Thank you guys so much for coming along with me. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite part of the town was, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. There are plenty of new adventures on the way. See you next time.